Most characters are dumb, then there's Patrick Star, a genius or completely brain-dead. I analyzed every Patrick moment and found something insane. His intelligence doesn't change randomly. It runs on 7 levels. And level 7 is the stupidity you think you understand. So let's start at the bottom. Level 1, surface stupidity, the performance. Patrick eats his own house. He forgets how to eat. He thinks mayonnaise is an instrument. This is the Patrick everyone knows. The walking disaster who can barely function. The friend who makes SpongeBob look like a genius by comparison. But watch closely. Patrick's stupidity at this level is perfectly calibrated. He's not random stupid. He's consistently stupid in specific ways. He understands complex concepts but fails at basic tasks. He can't tie his shoes but he can explain abstract philosophy. He forgets his own name but remembers SpongeBob's birthday every year. This isn't brain damage. This is selective incompetence. Patrick chooses what to understand and what to ignore. And at level 1, he chooses to ignore almost everything. Why? Because being stupid is safe. People don't expect things from stupid people. They don't ask questions. They don't assign responsibility. Patrick's surface stupidity isn't a character flaw. It's a shield. Protection against a world that would demand more from him if it knew what he was capable of. And sometimes that shield cracks. Level 2, accidental genius. The slips. The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma. Patrick says this while a carton of milk spills in his thought bubble. One sentence that reveals everything. Patrick has inner machinations. He has a mind complex enough to have enigmas. He's aware of his own mental processes, which requires a level of metacognition that directly contradicts his behavior. But it's not just that line. In Squidtastic Voyage, Patrick calmly explains how to use soda carbonation to power a submarine escape. In Wet Painters, he questions Mr. Krabs' logic with sound economic arguments. These aren't flukes, they're lapses, moments where Patrick forgets to be stupid and his real intelligence surfaces. Watch what happens immediately after these moments. Patrick usually does something catastrophically dumb, as if catching himself, as if slamming the door shut before revealing too much. The pattern is too consistent to be accidental. Patrick knows when he's being smart, and he actively corrects it. He's not accidentally intelligent. He's accidentally revealing his intelligence. And when that happens, he retreats back to level 1 as fast as possible. Because level 2 is dangerous. It makes people curious. And curiosity leads to questions Patrick doesn't want to answer. Level 3, strategic stupidity, the weaponization. I can't see my forehead. Patrick uses this line to avoid situations he doesn't want to deal with. He plays dumb to escape responsibility, consequences, work. But it's more sophisticated than simple avoidance. In Rule of Dumb, Patrick becomes king and immediately abuses power with zero restraint. He knows exactly what he's doing, taking houses, exiling citizens, making cruel demands. Then, when the consequences pile up, he voluntarily gives up the crown. He recognizes his own corruption and removes the temptation before it destroys him. This happens repeatedly. Patrick gains power or knowledge, abuses it, then deliberately removes it. His license in Driven to Tears, his intelligence in Patrick Smart Pants, his karate hand in Karate Star. Every time Patrick chooses to return to stupidity, most people think this is Patrick being too dumb to handle responsibility. But watch the pattern. Patrick doesn't fail and then lose power. He succeeds with power, recognizes what he's becoming, and removes it himself. That's not stupidity. That's self-awareness. That's recognizing your own worst impulses and protecting yourself from them by choosing limitation. Patrick weaponizes stupidity against himself. He makes himself powerless because he knows what he becomes when he has power. And that level of self-knowledge suggests something most fans never consider, Patrick remembers. Level 4, historical awareness, the memory, in Patrick's Smart Pants. When brain coral gets placed in Patrick's head, he becomes intelligent, cold, logical, emotionally detached. He remembers everything from before, but their friendship means nothing to him anymore. And here's the key. Patrick chooses to remove the coral. He willingly returns to stupidity. But if the coral made him smart, how does he know to remove it? How does he understand what he's losing by staying intelligent? Because some part of Patrick, even with the coral removed, retains that knowledge. He's been smart before. He knows what intelligence costs, and he's decided it's not worth it. This is confirmed in The Card, where Patrick protects a valuable trading card through pure luck. Except it's not luck. He sets it on fire multiple times and it survives. He lets it get eaten and it returns. The universe itself seems to protect Patrick's stupidity, or Patrick has become so good at appearing accidentally successful that even catastrophic decisions somehow work out. But there's a deeper implication. If Patrick remembers being intelligent, and if he's chosen stupidity over intelligence, then he's carrying the memories of every time he's made that choice, every cycle of gaining and losing knowledge, every version of himself that chose to forget. Patrick isn't dumb. Patrick is traumatized by his own intelligence, and he spent years building defenses against becoming that person again. Level 5, Existential Understanding, the Recognition. Mermaid Man can sense evil. Every time Patrick enters the vicinity, Mermaid Man screams, "Evil!" but only when Patrick is nearby, not when Plankton is there, not when Man Ray appears. Only Patrick triggers this response. In Back to the Past, Patrick repeatedly eats the tartar sauce that would stop Man Ray, despite knowing it will rewrite history and enslave Bikini Bottom. He doesn't forget. He can't help himself. Every timeline, Patrick causes the same disaster. And Mermaid Man, the one character who fought villains for decades, recognizes Patrick as evil, not stupid, evil, because Patrick's stupidity at this level isn't innocent, it's destructive. He's caused more damage to Bikini Bottom than every villain combined, not through malice, but through consistent, repeating choices that he knows will cause harm and makes anyway. Patrick understands consequences. He predicted the outcomes in Back to the Past. He knew what would happen, and he did it anyway because his impulses override his knowledge. That's not stupidity, that's addiction. Patrick is addicted to his own worst instincts and too weak to fight them, so he removed his ability to act on them by removing his intelligence. He made himself stupid because being smart gave him the power to cause harm he couldn't resist causing. Patrick's stupidity is self-imposed exile from his own dangerous nature. But there's one more piece. One more level that explains everything about who Patrick really is and why he's chosen this existence. Level 6, Biological Truth. The regeneration starfish regenerate. Cut off a limb, it grows back. In Karate Star, Patrick's hand becomes uncontrollable, so he cuts it off, and it grows back. But here's what that means. Every time Patrick regenerates, he's growing new tissue, new cells, potentially new brain matter. What if Patrick has been regenerating for years? What if every injury, every accident, every disaster that should have killed him just caused him to regrow? And what if every regeneration creates a slightly different Patrick, a new version with slightly fewer memories, slightly less intelligence, slightly more reset to a default state? Patrick doesn't just choose stupidity, he regenerates into it. Every time he gets too smart, too dangerous, too aware of what he's capable of, he finds a way to damage himself and regrow dumber. The cycle is biological, automatic, a built-in reset button that Patrick has learned to trigger whenever he needs to forget. The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma isn't philosophy, it's confusion. Patrick trying to understand his own brain and failing because his brain has been regrown so many times that even he doesn't know which version of himself he is anymore. How many Patricks have lived and died and regenerated in that body? How many memories were lost in each cycle? Patrick's stupidity is neurological self-destruction. A starfish repeatedly regrowing his brain to escape the trauma of remembering who he used to be. And who he used to be is the final level. The truth buried under decades of regeneration and willful forgetting. Level 7. The Original Sin. What Patrick was Mermaid Man wears a star on his nose. A specific star, a mark, and he screams evil when Patrick approaches. Patrick knows every detail of Mermaid Man's utility belt. Patrick sabotages Mermaid Man repeatedly in Back to the Past. Patrick's body still reacts to Mermaid Man with recognition even when his brain claims not to remember. Because Patrick was Mermaid Man's enemy, not Plankton, not Man Ray, Patrick. The villain Mermaid Man could never defeat because every time he destroyed Patrick, Patrick regenerated, came back, fought again, a starfish with unlimited resurrection and the intelligence to use it, until Patrick realized what he'd become. A monster, an unkillable force of destruction locked in eternal conflict with heroes who couldn't stop him, so Patrick did the only thing that could work. He erased himself, repeatedly, regenerated over and over until the villain was gone and only the harmless idiot remained. The star on Mermaid Man's nose isn't a decoration, it's a reminder. A warning about the threat that almost destroyed Bikini Bottom. The threat that chose to forget itself rather than continue existing. And Patrick's stupidity is the price he paid, the sacrifice he made, the continuous choice to regenerate dumb rather than regenerate dangerous. Every level of Patrick's stupidity is a defense mechanism. Surface stupidity protects him from expectations. Accidental genius reminds him what he's suppressing. Strategic stupidity weaponizes limitation against his own worst impulses. Historical awareness haunts him with memories he can't fully access. Existential understanding reveals him as self-aware evil choosing powerlessness. Biological regeneration provides the mechanism for endless forgetting. And the original sin drives everything. The knowledge that Patrick was once something terrible, and the only way to stop being that thing was to become nothing. Patrick isn't dumb. Patrick is hiding from the world, from his friends, from Mermaid Man, from himself, and every idiotic moment, every catastrophic failure, every time he eats his own house or forgets how to breathe is another brick in the wall between who he was and who he refuses to become again. The 7 levels aren't a progression. They're a descent, a deliberate journey from functioning intelligence down into protective stupidity. And Patrick makes that journey every day, every episode, every regeneration, choosing over and over to be the harmless fool rather than the unkillable monster. Because Patrick Star isn't the dumbest character in Bikini Bottom, he's the most committed, the most disciplined, the most terrifyingly self-aware character in the entire show. He knows exactly what he's doing, he knows exactly what he's hiding, and he's chosen to sacrifice his own intelligence, his own power, his own identity, to protect everyone else from what he knows he's capable of becoming. That's not stupidity, that's heroism. The kind of heroism nobody recognizes because it looks like failure. The kind of sacrifice nobody celebrates because it looks like laziness. Patrick saves Bikini Bottom every single day by choosing to be useless. And nobody knows, nobody suspects. Nobody understands that the dumbest character in the show might be the only thing standing between Bikini Bottom and its own destruction. Because if Patrick ever stops being stupid, if he ever regenerates back to full intelligence and full memory, the villain returns. And this time, there might not be enough of Patrick left to choose stupidity again. The 7 levels aren't a theory, they're a warning about what Patrick is, what Patrick was, and what Patrick is desperately trying not to become again. And now you know. You've seen all 7 levels. You understand the pattern. You recognize the truth. Patrick Star is the smartest character in Bikini Bottom, and his greatest achievement is making absolutely sure nobody ever finds out.